It feels like the world gets more unpredictable every single day, right? So, how is it that some organizations don't just survive all the chaos, but actually come out on top? Well, the answer is a skill that's become absolutely essential: mastering risk. And today, we're going to break down exactly how they do it. So, let me ask you a question, a serious one. As you look toward 2025 and beyond, is your business, your organization, really built to last? Because let's be honest, the world we're operating in now is a completely different ballgame. The stakes have never, ever been higher. We are all navigating a super high stakes environment now. It's defined by these rapid, overlapping, and frankly chaotic forces. The threats aren't just some far off thing on the horizon anymore. They're right here, and they're evolving faster than we can keep up. Let me just show you what I mean. First up, you've got these incredibly sophisticated and relentless cyber threats. They're targeting everything from your private data to your most basic operations. Then, you have the growing reality of climate disruption. This isn't just an environmental issue. It's creating totally unprecedented risks to businesses, both physically and operationally. And kind of tying it all together is the sheer fragility of our global supply chains. We've all seen how one little hiccup in one part of the world can trigger this massive cascade of chaos everywhere else. And look, this isn't just a feeling, okay? The data is practically screaming it at us. A staggering 78% of managers now point to cybersecurity as their absolute number one concern. That just shows you how central these new kinds of risks are to the way we have to think about business today. So, what do we do? How do you fight back against all of that? Well, this brings us to a whole new way of thinking about risk management. It's not just about playing defense anymore. I want you to think of it as having both a shield and a sword. Okay, so here's the formal textbook definition. It's a systematic process, blah, blah, blah. But I want you to look closely because there's one word on this slide that changes everything: opportunities. See? It's not just about dodging bullets anymore. It's about spotting and seizing those chances to get ahead. Now, this is a huge, huge shift from the old way of doing things. Traditional risk management was totally reactive. You wait for something to break and then you'd fix it. And every department was kind of stuck in its own little world. The modern approach, which we call enterprise risk management, or ERM, is the exact opposite. It's proactive and holistic. It's all about breaking down those walls and looking at the entire organization to get ahead of the game. And this is the key takeaway, right here. The shield is there to protect you. It protects your reputation, your assets, your bottom line. But the sword? The sword is what enables your success. It gives you the confidence to take smart, calculated risks, to innovate, to expand, and to totally outperform your competition. Okay, so that covers the what and the why, but what about the how? How do you actually do this? Let's get into the playbook and see how it works. We can break it all down into a really simple but really powerful 4-step loop that just keeps going. First up, identify risks. Think of this as your big brainstorming session. What could go wrong? And just as important, what could go right? Get everything down on paper. Second, assess and prioritize. You can't do everything at once, so this is where you figure out which risks pack the biggest punch. Third, mitigate and control. This is your action plan. What are you going to do about each big risk? Avoid it, reduce it, maybe even transfer it with insurance? And fourth, and this one is so important, monitor and adapt. The world is always changing, so this playbook can't just be a document that gathers dust on a shelf. It has to be a living, breathing thing you are constantly revisiting. So how do you prioritize? It really comes down to a surprisingly simple formula. You just multiply the likelihood of something happening by the potential impact if it does. And boom, that gives you a nice, clear score to figure out what needs your attention right now. And here is what that idea looks like in practice. It's a risk heat map, and it lets you see all your priorities in just a glance. Stuff that's low likelihood and low impact, that's your green zone. You can probably live with those. But the things that are high likelihood and high impact, whoa, that's the red zone. That's where you need to act, and you need to act now. Okay, the difference between actually mastering this process and just ignoring it is absolutely dramatic. So let's look at some real-world consequences where you can see how risk management can turn a threat into a massive advantage or lead to a total disaster.
First, let's start with a cautionary tale. There was a major global automaker that flat out chose to ignore massive compliance risks they had with their emissions data. They knew the rules, but they just didn't bother to build the controls to actually follow them.
And the result? A complete catastrophe that cost them over $25 billion in fines. And that's not even counting the incredible damage to their reputation. A total failure of the Shield. But now, let's flip the script and look at a huge success story. A major streaming service saw a chance to completely upend the entire entertainment industry. But their big, bold moves weren't just wild gambles. They were, and this is a quote, guided by boundary systems, which is a core risk management idea. It means setting clear limits on what's okay, which then allows for amazing innovation inside a safe framework. And the result of them using both the Shield and the sword? Total industry domination. They took smart, calculated risks, like moving from DVDs to streaming to making their own shows, and man, did it pay off. They completely transformed their market. So let's bring it all home. Why does any of this matter so much? Well, because doing this right safeguards your reputation and it minimizes financial loss. That's the Shield. But it also drives real innovation and growth. It helps you make better decisions with clear data, and ultimately, it makes sure your organization is truly resilient, that you're ready to handle whatever the world throws at you next. Which really leaves us with one final thought. In the world we live in today, you simply cannot avoid risk. It's impossible. The only choice you really have is how you decide to engage with it. So is risk going to be the thing you fear, or is it going to be the thing you master?